G'day guys, it's the old mate Big J here and welcome to another edition of Aussie Boxing Talk. The show literally punches you right between the fucking eyes. And today we're going to be talking about Jai Opeatia again today, and not for the reasons that you think. As the title says, Jai Opeatia is not the man Zuffa needs to legitimise their belt. And I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, I'm going to tell you why. Right now, I know that Jai is going to have some legal battles. He's going to go after the IBF and sue them for the clusterfuck that's been going on between them, between himself and the IBF. But I think that's a frivolous thing, and it's only going to cost money, and it can take years to drag out, because the IBF's got a lot deeper pockets than what Jai Opeatia does. So I think he should just grin and bear it and move on, right? Because he's got better things to worry about than the bloody IBF. But anyway, so I was looking at history today, and I was looking at particularly the four sanctioning bodies, and as I said, the last video I mentioned when they come into play, but what I want to mention today, and this is why I believe Jai Opeatia won't be the man to legitimise Zuffa, it's when these belts actually came to providence. Now, there's a saying out there, well, I think I've created this saying by myself, but I'm sure I've heard it somewhere before. In boxing, or even in UFC, in any combat sport, let's say boxing, most of the time, belt maketh the man. Right, but there's very, very rare occasions. There's only been probably 4 or 5 when I'm about to mention where man maketh belt. And what I mean by that is that the actual champion that wins the belt actually legitimizes that belt. And actually, like, you know, the WBA is a prime example where it becomes a major title, where it just doesn't float around like it's a belt, but no one really takes it seriously until someone of stigma actually gets a hold of it and legitimizes it. And this has happened, you know, 4 or 5 times in history, and I'm going to go through those 4 or 5 times, and this, I think, will cement why I think Jai Opeatia is not the man to legitimize Zuffa and what they're trying to do. So I'll go through the history of the belts first, and then I'll give my reasons why I don't think Jai is the man to legitimize Zuffa. They need a lot bigger name than Jai Opeatia. But anyway, so I'll start with the WBA, which is the oldest belt. Come into play, I think 1922 or 1921, and Jack Dempsey was its inaugural champion. So the WBA first ever champion was Jack Dempsey, and we know Jack Dempsey's a legend of the game. You know, that belt's got a 100-year plus history. Had people like Max Baird, Jimmy Braddock, Joe Louis, Muhammad Ali, you know, all the greats, Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, all the great heavyweights, Larry Holmes, all the great heavyweights over the years that won that belt. But Jack Dempsey was the inaugural champion in 1922, and I really don't think it got legitimised until probably James J. Braddock, but really so Joe Louis, because Joe Louis defended it like 29 times successfully. Even though the heavyweight championship was the most prestige thing at the time, I really think Joe Louis made the heavyweight championship what it is today, right? And of course, there was only one belt back in those days, because Joe Louis, even now, I think, still got the world record for the amount of defences, like 29 defences. So I think Joe Louis legitimised the heavyweight championship as a whole. And that was, I think he won it off James J. Braddock in 1937. So, and then held it for like a decade or whatever until, of course, Rocky Marciano come along and beat him. So, yeah. So, even though Jack Dempsey is a legend because he was the first ever heavyweight champion, or the WBA champion, I'm sure there were heavyweight champions before that, but that was the recognised guy. It really didn't get legitimised or really got its stature until Joe Louis came along. All right. Now, the WBC broke off from the WBA in 1962. Their inaugural champion was Sonny Liston, and we all know how that ended out. The WBC really didn't... It took off when Muhammad Ali got a hold of it, because he was the second man to ever hold that belt. So Muhammad Ali won the belt in 1964, as we know, in February of 1964. And, of course, he held it 3 times, or 2 times, 3 times, and legitimised that belt. I mean, Muhammad Ali still to this day is on the WBC belt. So Muhammad Ali legitimised the WBC, right, in 1964. Well, his reign in 1964, right? Next comes the IBF, which came into play in December 11th, 1985. Larry Holmes was actually the first champion. I didn't know that, so I just looked it up about 5 minutes ago. But even though Larry Holmes was a great heavyweight and was the inaugural IBF champion, the IBF was always seen to look at the weakest belt until Tyson got a hold of it when he had the undisputed fight with Tony Tucker. I think it was August 1st of 1987. So that's when the IBF got legitimised, was through Mike Tyson. I mean, we already had, like, you know, Lester Ellis and Barry Michael and all that sort of stuff was in 1985. But the IBF really didn't take off or become legitimised until Tyson got it around his waist in the first ever undisputed fight in 1987 for all the heavyweight belts. So there's a pattern forming here. Keep with me. So the IBO, even though it's a lesser belt, the IBO came into play in 1988. It really didn't get legitimised until Lennox Lewis got it around his waist in 1999 when he defeated Vander Holyfield in the rematch for the Undisputed Heavyweight Championship. So the IBO has always been a secondary belt. All right, but that's when it got legitimised, is that when Lennox Lewis got it around his waist. And you can see a pattern forming here, is that these belts don't really get legitimised until a heavyweight champion gets it around their waist. All right, because you know, like as I said, even Aussies like Jeff Fennick, Lester Ellis, Barry Michael all had IBF belts. I think even before Tyson won his, but Tyson was the guy that sent the IBF into, well, they're a legit title, because before the IBF was always seen as, oh yeah, it's just the third championship. It's not really the championship. It's the WBC and the WBA. Of course, they've been around for a lot longer. I mean, you know, by 1987, the WBC had been around for 25 years, and the WBA had been around for 60. So 65 years. So a belt had only been around for not even 4 years at that point. Really didn't have any legitimacy to it until Mike Tyson got around. And of course, the other thing around that, these guys, at the time of them getting their belts, Ali, Joe Louis, Tyson, were considered certainly the best heavyweight, but certainly probably most pound for pound the best boxer in the world. Right? At the time that they had the belt. Right? So, you know, Ali legitimised the WBC with his reign, where same with Tyson, he legitimised it, right? I mean, same with Joe Louis legitimised it through a long successful reign. So if Jai Optaia is going to legitimise the Zuffa belt, he's got to have a very long reign with it, a long successful reign. But here's the thing. These guys were already champion. Well, Ali wasn't. But these guys were already, or through their reigns, they were considered the #1 pound-for-pound fighter on the planet. Jai Optaia at cruiserweight will never be considered the #1 pound-for-pound fighter on the planet. Not going to happen. Not at cruiserweight. The division's too weak. I mean, he's already defended the IBF belt. He defended the IBF belt like 5 times. Everyone's like, yes, so? Look at the competition. Now, the WBO is an interesting case. The WBO stands alone because it didn't take a heavyweight to legitimise it. It didn't get legitimate, in my opinion, until 2011 when Manny Pacquiao got it. And Manny Pacquiao at the time was considered, if not #1, probably the #2 pound-for-pound guy in the world. Second only to Floyd. So, you know, it takes a special type of person or in a special type of reign to legitimise these belts. And the problem with Joe is that he's a cruiserweight. No one cares about the cruiserweight division. I mean, Joe could have 20 successful defences with a Zuffa belt and everyone will go, meh, no one cares. So that's the point. Zuffa has certainly backed the wrong horse if they're going to legitimise their product here with Jai Optaia, because he's in the weakest division in boxing and now he doesn't even have a belt. So, I mean, you know, even if he has a long reign with the belt, which I doubt, Is that going to be enough to legitimise the Zuffa belt? I don't know. I doubt it. I doubt Jai Opeatia is the guy to legitimise the belt, because over the last two belts, certainly the IBO and the W. Well, if you look at the last three, the IBF, the IBO and the WBO, they were already in the hands of established champions to legitimise those belts. So you could argue the fact that belt maketh man with Ali and certainly Joe Louis, right? But at the end of their reigns, it was man maketh belt. So at the start, it was belt maketh man, but at the end of their reigns, it was man maketh belt, because they legitimised it. So and Tyson was already well established by the time he got the IBF title. Lennox Lewis was well established by the time he got the IBO title, and Manny Pacquiao was certainly well established by the time he got the WBO title around his waist. So Jai Opeatia is not an established superstar in boxing by any stretch of the means. No one knows who he is, and frankly, no one cares. Right? He's Australian. Yeah, an Australian. Is an Aussie fighter with Samoan heritage. Whoop-de-doo. No one cares. It's not like he's been a long reigning, it's not like he's been on the top for, 5 years and he's not pound for pound. If he was on the pound for pound list, it would be a different story, but he's not. And in the cruiserweight division, he probably never will be. Unless he becomes undisputed. If he becomes undisputed, that's a completely different story. Zuffa probably should have waited until someone in the cruiserweight division became undisputed and then tagged their Zuffa belt on top of that. That would have legitimised the entire thing. But I just don't think Jai Opeatia is the man to legitimise the Zuffa belt. And as I said, I don't see Zuffa lasting till Christmas of next year. It'd be a miracle if they last till Christmas of this year, the way they're going. Because I think now that Roy Jones Jr. has come out and said his piece, and Richardson Hitchens has backed out, and a few other things have gone wrong, I think people are going to be like, well, this Zuffa seems to be more trouble than it's worth. I'm not going to worry about it. But that's my thoughts, guys. I think that Jai is not the man to man maketh belt, and certainly belt that's not going to make it man. That's for certain. The Zuffa belt means absolutely nothing. As I said, it's got about as much legitimacy as the toy belt I've got on me, on my desk over there. So I just don't see how Jai is going to get this done. I'm really concerned that Jai might have just sunk his own career going with Zuffa, and there's really not much we can do about it. But anyway, guys, tackle the ball, wrestle, crock hard yourselves the fuck up. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you another day.